Welcome to the Mockingcast, the podcast of Mockingbird Ministries. I'm David Zoll, your host, and in a few moments, I'll be joined by my co-hosts, Sarah Condon and RJ Heyman. We come to you every other week to discuss a few of the places where we currently see grace and its absence playing out in unexpected and compelling ways. We're glad to have you with us.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. God.
Closing in on the end of January, and yet this is our first episode back, so a belated Happy New Year to the two of you. Larry David would not allow this late of a Happy New Year, but I'm going to say it on air because I mean it. Happy New Year, RJ. Happy New Year, Sarah.
Happy New
Glad to be
Year.
with you.
Happy
How are
New
you guys
Year.
doing? Let's check in for a sec.
Well, we're bracing for really crazy weather, so that's that's kind of like all we're thinking about right now.
I'm jealous. I want a snow day. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a really. I mean, I'm excited about it. Yeah, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to just like pretending like I'm in Little Women and like playing in the snow
Oh.
and
Lori.
eating hot chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah, by the time this
Interesting.
episode airs, Sarah and I will both likely be encased in ice.
Trapped.
Yeah.
With our children.
For
Mhm.
people here keep saying it's a spring break's coming early, in that we're going to have a full week off of school. There's almost no way around it at this point,
I'm
given
so
the
jealous.
hysteria.
That sounds
It doesn't matter
amazing.
kind of what falls from the sky. It's going to be intense. We're there predicting somewhere between 4 and 31 inches of snow.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
It's a big range.
Yeah, it is a big
Wow.
range. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be Wednesday
Do you
safely.
have tubes,
Yeah.
Dave? Do you have sledding tubes that you can, really
I-
shred on, build some jumps,
As soon as I got the news, I
Yes.
went to Jeff Bezos' website and I
Yes.
bought 2 sleds and I
Yes.
bought snow pants. And I was
Yes.
like, because every year
We're
I'm
all
like, I'm
in.
kind of like surprised by this since we moved from Houston. Everybody's mad at me. And so I was like,
Mhm.
no, I'm ordering all the things. So
Yep.
Good for you.
yeah, it'll be fun.
That's a good mom. We got some
Amazing.
stuff. We got enough equipment. It's, 3 boys.
Oh,
No matter
yeah.
what equipment you think you have, you're always lacking something
Yeah.
because they've grown and their feet are
Yeah.
enormous. Or
Yeah.
it's always like a whack-a-mole game. But
Yep.
RJ, South Florida, we're not jealous. What's going
I
on?
know.
South
Oh my
Florida.
gosh.
Good. We had a great Christmas. Went to Disney World for like 4 or 5
Oh
days.
my gosh, RJ, I
which
didn't
was-
know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was super fun. We took Marshall. That was great. And then I didn't really get a Sunday off, and there was other sort of pastoral stuff going on. So then I promptly got sick the first week of January,
Naturally.
which was actually really nice.
Mhm.
Just that was my personal snow day. I mean, I didn't feel great, but it was nice. I mean, I also started to get stressed out because I'm like, there's so much work to do.
Yeah.
But it was kind of that was good. My eldest son is in Amsterdam working, which is cool. And I know. And
So cool.
kids are good, wife is good, I'm good, praise God. Just I wish there was a blizzard in West Palm. Yeah. How about you, Deez?
I don't think you're going to wish this kind of blizzard. I think there's blizzards, and then there's what at least it's hard to always separate it from the hysteria, at least in the mid-Atlantic. I've said it before, but the New Englander in me groans inwardly, and it's not just the weather, it's the complete freak out the 3 days before the weather.
So I met my wife the night before the blizzard of 1996. So we just passed
Oh.
our 30-year anniversary of having met, which is that kind of crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I remember the blizzard of 96. I was a junior in high school.
Yeah. I was
So
junior in college, I think, sophomore.
let me ask you this. It's although maybe again the window has closed, but I'm still curious. Any resolutions, or shall I say goals, or changes, adjustments to the
Mhm.
plan in 2026? Any things to share along those lines that we can either circle back to mid-year or just kind of chuckle about right now?
I've decided 2 New Year's resolutions. The first one is I'm going to try to be a better fan of the University of Mississippi this year. So
Oh.
that's my first one.
A year late, but okay.
A year late. Yeah. We're gonna take our downturn and it'll be on me.
Perfect timing.
Juju, the Sarah Juju.
But it was like really exactly. It was really fun to watch the games. I mean, I didn't grow up with football, and Josh loves football, especially SEC. And so I've been trying to hang with it a little bit more. And this was like the first. I mean, part of it was like we were winning, but it was just like such a sweet, fun thing. So I want to pay more attention to them because that was very enjoyable. And then I just don't want to die this year. So I'm working on that.
As opposed to most years.
I mean, I went to the dermatologist and had a mole removed 2 weeks ago, and they're like, we think it's cancerous a little bit, and now you have to get it removed. And we have to, it's like this whole thing. And I'm just like.
Did they run a biopsy? What was it? What did they?
Yeah.
And
they were like, it's headed in that direction, was what they said. And so they have to like take a whole chunk out of my leg. And I just want to stay alive. That's my New Year's resolution.
Jeez.
I know. Dave, but I thought of you because like I texted one of my like mom, like, I have these like moms in my life, Kim Robinson, who I've talked about here and I love. And I was like, I feel like my body's against me. And she was like, no, you're just in your 40s. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I need to remember that. And then I thought of like your little hobbled ass this summer. Maybe we are getting older, and it's not.
I think there's something to it.
I'm deeply depressed, Dave.
I'm not a detective, but
I think that is actually what. I don't think it's specific to me. So anyway, it's just I just want to be like in this life and present to it, and all the things we say every New Year's. But yeah,
Rutger. Those are great, by the way. Thank you. I want you to stay alive too, Sarah.
I'm turning 50 this year, which is nuts. In May. I know. Mm-hmm. And I guess this ties in. There have been a couple afternoons, this month even, where I have taken naps. So that might be a little goal for the year, that when 2:30 rolls around, especially if I'm working that night and I'm just like at a low ebb, maybe I just go home and sleep for an hour and not try to gut it out or something like that. So I want to try to maybe take a few more naps. I definitely have some, because I'm a workaholic, I have some professional goals. We just launched a new 5 p.m. Contemporary service this past Sunday, which was fantastic. So I hope that goes well. And we've got some big building plans at church. That'll all come into focus this year. And this isn't really a goal, but I'm noticing, I don't know, I'm actually, by the grace of God, feeling like a little bit less anxious than I'm used to feeling. And just settling into things, and there's things that need to get done, but they all get done sooner or later. And if they don't, God doesn't want them to. What about you, D?
I sort of fulfilled a promise that I'd made to myself as well as to my wife. And I'd said that once the promotional cycle for the Big Relief was over, I would sign out of Facebook and just take an extended hiatus. I'm sure if there's something else to promote, I'll be back one day. Maybe, I don't know, but I did. And it's been incredible. It's also been sort of alarming to realize, like, I'm alone with my phone and I just absentmindedly press Facebook and nothing comes up. And I was talking to a sort of a mentor of mine. He's like, maybe that's a sign you should just say a prayer every time you do that. Just talk to God, say thank you or please or help or something like that. And I noticed the mental space opening up immediately.
It's a wasteland, man. It's crazy. Yeah,
it is. I mean, I was funny. I was sending Sarah something very redemptive that I found on YouTube of this incredible guy who puts his toddler. He's got this 3-year-old daughter who tells stories. He puts.
We have to link to this. It's so good.
He makes yacht rock songs, toddler yacht rock songs, and they're extremely good. Yeah, and that sort of stuff I love. Like I love the jokes, the memes, the music, and those are things that be highlights. So I'm staying on Instagram, but I am just decided I don't know how much Facebook is adding to anything in my life or anyone else's life. So that was my resolution. We'll see how I stick to it. I did have a near miss over the holiday where I fell on black ice walking the dog.
God, is this an aging podcast now? Guys.
It was 11 degrees.
It'll just be doctor's appointments 10 years from now. Okay. It'll just be doctor's appointments.
My knee ballooned up. I spent 36 hours thinking I had re-injured myself. and that I would just be going into old age at the age of 46, and just I'm not going back there. I'm not doing. However, the spiraling was in vain because it looks like that I did not, in fact,
Tear your
ruin
ACL.
year number 2
Good.
with a knee and middle-aged man problem.
Are you limping still?
No, I'm not hopping. I'm not running, but I'm walking like a normal person.
Good.
And I'm confident that I'll continue to. So
Good. All right.
In Mockingbird news, before we jump into some great stuff to talk about, 2 things. The beauty issue of our magazine is shipping. It's being packed as we speak on the floor below where I'm recording this, and it's awesome. It's just exquisite. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
We will have a link to where you can order a copy or subscribe. That's very exciting. And this morning, we also announced the schedule for the New York City Mockingbird Conference, which happens April 23rd through 25th. And I'm totally pumped about how it's come together. And one of the last things that did come together, we won't be able to do a Mockingcast recording this year, but hopefully we'll do it in years to come. But RJ and Aaron Zimmerman, who co-hosts our Same Old Song podcast, have agreed to lead a sort of a pre-conference workshop on renewing your local congregation Mockingbird style. So that's an extra event. You can register as ticketed, but RJ doesn't want me to say this in a public forum, but I'm just going to do it and we can cut it later. But he and Aaron, it turns out they run the 2 fastest growing Episcopal churches in America. So, that's a little like saying,
I mean, we should maybe let them talk a little bit.
Maybe they're doing
Depends
something
the date
right.
you choose. It depends the date you choose, but yeah, anyway.
Well, there's lots of hopeful things to pass on, at least to commiserate about. There's no formula, but
the church is not. Yeah, there's hope. There's hope.
Yeah.
So people come to New York. We'd love to see you. So those 2 things are happening.
That's awesome.
But let's get into the material. What do you say?
Yes.
This first one is by one of our longtime listeners, first-time writer, Matt Lindemann. Matt Lindemann is an Episcopal clergyman in Southport, Connecticut. And he wrote this. He wrote an article for Mockingbird called Lieutenant Dan Season. Lieutenant Dan Season. He's referring, of course, to the character of Lieutenant Dan in the movie Forrest Gump, who is played by Gary Sinise. He says, Lieutenant Dan's saltiness has always stuck with me. Dan was caustically angry as a man who had lost his legs and returned home from Vietnam rather than dying in battle like his ancestors had in every other American war. Forrest Gump had rescued him and nearly everyone else in his platoon from an ambush in combat. And in the film, after they get home, he finds him in New York City right around the turn of the year. And there's a famous meme of Lieutenant Dan's face looking extremely morose at a New Year's party with like confetti in his hair. Lindemann writes, in a parable of prodigal heft, Dan's life in the city was all about chasing cheap pleasure. Squandering his VA check on booze and dissolute living, Dan evinces a 1,000-yard stare among the confetti and noisemakers. He may as well be back in Vietnam, given the distance between Gump's innocent joy and his own psycho-spiritual reality. Matt writes, my therapist backs up the data with his own experience. This is the time of year when everybody calls. He assures me that this is the season in which he hears from clients old and new. It's an emotional low tide, early January. Having served for 10 years as a priest, I see it too. Tempers are short, emotions run high, people feel broke and anxious, and there's a reliable uptick in the death and dying of parishioners or their family members. Dan's visage in this bar scene evokes the same kind of steely glare through which many of us greet the new year. The joy of the season supplanted by the hard work to clear the backlog of all the things that were put on pause until after the holiday. The next time we see Lieutenant Dan, he's in the bayou, joining Gump's shrimping venture. During a devastating hurricane, Dan hoists himself into the crow's nest and yells at God, full-throated, furious, and unfiltered. Like a mashup of Job, Moses, and Leonard Cohen, Dan's encounter with the Almighty is raw honesty. No polish, no platitudes, just a guy yelling at God. As a pastor, I love this image. I use it all the time with people as I try to counsel them away from a gauzy, polite indifference in prayer. Yelling at God feels unthinkable to many, yet this is exactly what prayer is for.
Yeah.
Better out than in. Otherwise, it hardens like plaque in the arteries of the soul. The opposite of love isn't hate, after all, it's indifference. So this is the season of Lieutenant Dan, a time when it's okay to feel low, to let your hair down, a season when you too can yell at God from the best perch you've got. Let it rip. God can take it. After all, we are yelling at a God whose greatest love is to join us in our weakness and transform it. That's just a portion of the piece. Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, so good.
I haven't watched Forrest Gump with my kids yet. I don't know why that is.
Okay.
We just watched it recently with Marshall, and he loved it. He just loved it. I think we watched it again like a week later because he liked it so much. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There's
Well-
a few parts you got to fast forward through for a 9-year-old, but for the most part, yeah, he totally loved it. Yeah.
I can think of one. Tell me, what do you guys think of what Matt said? I mean, knowing a lot of clergy, I've heard this observation before, that early January is a sad time, and it's a time when lots of people die. Lots of funerals. There were no exception here in Charlottesville right now, but how does this strike you?
I don't know if I found that before. I got to think about that. The early January. It seems it comes in waves to me. Like we had a big wave last year right after Easter. We had like 6 people die. This year, actually before Christmas, we had a few people die. And we've had a few deaths recently. I personally, January, I'm a bit like relieved that we've made it through the season and Christmas, and like the gifts are bought and there's a little bit of an afterglow. So I don't know if I want to comment on that, but I love what he says about yelling at God, about talking to God, about bringing God your whole heart. People will often say, so many people have so much bigger problems than God doesn't have time for my problems. And I'm like, God's here for all of it. God just wants to, God wants to be with you and hear from you and give you what you need. And it reminds me of Robert Duvall in The Apostle. When he yells at God and his mom gets a angry phone call from a neighbor being like, what's your son doing? He sounds like a crazy person. He's like, well, since he's a boy, he's been talking to God, and sometimes he talks to God, and sometimes he yells at God, and tonight he's yelling at God. And she just hangs up the phone on the neighbor. So I think that's a really beautiful image, that prayer is just regular talking, and your heart, all the things that you might not say to a person or be scared to say to a person, like God knows it already. And he's here for it. You're not fooling anybody. And there's something helpful and cathartic, and that, God is real. He answers.
Well, I think we have an episode called "It's Okay to Yell at God," or "It's a great day to yell at God."
It's a great day to yell at God.
Because it's from that meme, you know, that's like, come out here, you coward. Yeah. That's my favorite.
Sarah, how does this strike you?
It's funny. It makes me think, I've been doing a little bit of Bible study on exile, and I was in Malachi.
You've been studying the Bible, Sarah? What is going
for
on?
work, so,
Wow.
What did she just
You're
say?
being paid to do this.
And
Okay,
feeling like RJ right now. And the opening of Malachi is so hilarious to me, because God's like, I've loved you. I've always loved you or something. And then Israel is like, when have you loved us? Like, I love that is a part of our scripture. And it feels very uniquely Christian that people are just sassy and mean and sad and hurt, like, and directing it at God. I do want to speak a word of grace, because I know people who have been in a situation where they just were so mad at God they couldn't talk to God.
Yeah.
And I think that's its own kind of talking to God.
Yeah.
I think when you say that out loud to a fellow believer, it's its own kind of talking to God. And that's a space some people have to inhabit before they move to the next one. And that's a space some people live in their whole lives, unfortunately. Yeah, it's, when you've been in ministry this long, and you guys, I know, have this experience, it's like bad things happen to everybody, but there are people that bad things happen to, and they're so surprised that anything bad could ever happen. Josh and I were talking about this last night, and I was like, it's just such a contrast sometimes. And he said, well, they thought they were in control. So it's like the first time they're learning that they're not in control. And then for other people, I mean, I'm forever grateful. I grew up with a narrative of my parents being really open about all the suicide and mental illness and addiction and death in our family, because it made me, I was certainly surprised when they died, but it also made it fit into a narrative I'd already been given, that like sometimes that happens, and that like people still showed up at church, and people still found some way to crawl into belief. So yeah, it's a great piece. And I love the image of Lieutenant Dan. It's a great image.
It is a great
You
image.
and me. At the top of the mast. It's so good.
It makes me think of, we posted today, actually, yesterday, the first piece from the Beauty issue. And Gretchen Ronovic, who's spoken at one of our events before, she wrote this wonderful piece called The Ugly Side of the Truth. I'm going to read just her opening to it. Remind me of Lieutenant Dan season. She said, near the end of our family's homeschooling journey, one of the graduating seniors in our group asked if I'd be a judge on her senior thesis project. Her 20-page paper was a defense of Christians being allowed to listen to emo music. Gretchen says, I had to look up what emo was. It's a style of hardcore punk, with emo standing for emotional. So I listened to some emo. It seemed like teenage angst music, to say the least. As I read her paper, I noted the particular argument she was up against, that emo music causes people to be depressed, even take their own life. In contrast, she laid out the benefits of having an outlet for pain and the value of art that depicts suffering. The panel of judges, most of which were chosen by the young lady's mother, came in with their own agenda. It seemed most of them held the belief that emo music focuses too much on the ugly. Christians should set their minds higher on the good, the true, the beautiful, not all these sad emotional complaints.
Oh, no.
As the judges kept asking if emo music fit As the judges kept asking if emo music fit the description of beautiful, I kept asking, but is it true? And do we consider the truth beautiful, even if it does not bring immediate pleasure? Is there something beautiful in having one's pain seen? Furthermore, what does the Bible say about expressing pain? That should be a hallmark of our faith, right? And at least in the most authentic and exciting faith communities I've seen, it usually is. There's some sort of Robert Duvall type space for yelling at God. So anyway, anything else to say about that before we move on? Favorite emo song?
Oh my gosh, no, that's not for me. Every time because it's always like white guys that are like, hey, hey, hey. That's how they sound to me. And I'm like, turn it off. Like, it's like, I can't get it off.
I got enough
fast
whining in my
enough.
household. I don't need more.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
do some dashboard confessional now and then. Feels cathartic.
I think it's so dangerous to tell young people that things that are emotional or sad aren't beautiful
or aren't Christian. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
like Jesus doesn't want to hear your complaint. It's like
really bleak.
Yeah,
because life is so broken and life is so fractured and ugly, and it's just that thing that we always lose sight of. And I know I've said it a million times on here, but it's like, if we look at the quote unquote like classic saints of the church, right? We go hardcore Catholic saints of the church. Like, they're only saints because of suffering. Like, they're not saints because they're beautiful. They're not saints because they're perfect. Yeah. They're saints because like their lives are really hard and they somehow found faith in the midst of that. And they suffered a tremendous, like, it's so misplaced.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate when the phrase "the good, the true, the beautiful" becomes a euphemism for the positive, the happy, and the shiny. And I don't think it's meant at its best. It's not. But
no.
I think sometimes you just got to put on the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance and sort of let it rip.
Okay,
is Jeremy Enoch emo? Is Jeremy Enoch emo?
This is the guy, R.J. Hayman.
Yeah.
Turned me on to Sunny Day Real Estate. So
so good. Jeremy Enoch's album World Waits. Oh my God, it's so good. Yes, that's
we get to talk about music.
Yeah.
Well, this next one is a fun one. This is from Catherine Jesser Morton in The Cut, which is in 2026. We are friction maxing. She writes this: tech companies are succeeding in making us think of life as inconvenient and something to be continuously escaping from into digital padded rooms of single tap commands. Reading is boring, talking is awkward, moving is tiring, leaving the house is daunting, interacting with strangers is scary. These are all frictions that we can now eliminate easily, and we do. According to the emergent ideology of Silicon Valley, most people would prefer not to be human. They've demonstrated this through their revealed preferences in the way they use the apps they're being sold. We talked about this in terms of like self-checkout lines recently. That's all the proof that tech companies need to invest as much money as possible in friction elimination tools that effectively dehumanize users. This is especially evil because our love of escaping is one of humanity's most poetically problematic tendencies, and now it's being used against us. A friend of mine, a father of 2 young kids, admitted to me that the high point of each day is sitting on the toilet with his phone.
Yeah.
We are really like this, but that doesn't mean we need to be like this 100% of the time, Jezzer Morton writes. Once we've adopted a habit of escaping from something, whether it's Ubering dinner 5 nights a week or using AI for replying to texts, the act of return feels full of irritating friction. In these moments, we become exactly like toddlers in the 5 minutes after the iPad is taken away. The dullness and labor of embodied existence is unbearable. It's infantilizing adults, and we don't even have a word yet for what it's doing to kids, but you all know exactly what I'm talking about. This is why I have resolved to commit to make 2026 a year of friction maxing. Friction maxing is not simply a matter of reducing your screen time or whatever. It's the process of building up tolerance for quote-unquote inconvenience, which is usually not inconvenience at all, but just the vagaries of being a person living with other people in spaces that are impossible to completely control. And then reaching even toward enjoyment. So, are you ready for more friction? Catherine Jezzer Morton asks. Invite people over to your house without cleaning it all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
Babysit for someone who needs a night out. Send your kids to run a small errand for you, comfortable in the knowledge that they will probably do a bad or incomplete job. Each of these acts may be insignificant, but an orientation toward friction is really the only defense we have against the life-annihilating suction of technologies of escape. She distinguishes, by the way, between friction and suffering. And
Sure.
I see what she means, and I'm dealing with a 9-year-old who is constantly worried that things are going to be boring. He's like, I don't want to go to watch my older brother's basketball
It'll be
game.
boring.
It'll be boring.
Yeah.
And my wife and I had this moment. It's like, when did he get this message that it's intolerable to ever have any non-engaged like time? It was something we're concerned about. So we're looking. I'm looking to this for a little bit of wisdom too. But
I don't know if
what
that's
do you guys
new,
think?
though. I don't know if that's new. I remember my wife saying that when her little brother Matt was bored, he'd go, "I'm boring. I'm boring," you know, and that was like 40 years ago. I mean, I think that's an impulse of little kids. They have they have short attention spans. They got a lot of energy now. Of course, the iPad, iPhone, you know, social media, whatever, has sped it up. But anyway, boredom's been a part of childhood forever, hasn't it?
Yeah, but I think we have more ways now that we pivot away from it, right?
Yeah.
It's just so much easier for them to like engage in a screen and not ever have to feel bored. So then things that like used to be pretty pat that kids would go with their parents to do, it's like, well, I'd rather stay home and like stare at a screen, you know, like it just, I don't know. So on Tuesday, our kids, after we had Monday off, our kids had a half day on Tuesday. What?
And they're about to have another week.
And they're about to have a lot of days off. And I was like, man, what can we do that can like keep them from coming home and like, you know, looking at an iPad or whatever. And I took them to see Hamnet and cannot recommend it enough. Actually loved the book. Think the movie is better because there's so much real Shakespeare in the movie. It is incredible. And I'm
excited.
Definitely was the only person in that theater with like a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. But it was such a good, like they would never choose this. This would not be their thing. If we were home, they'd probably find a way to get out of it. Like, you know, and it was like, no, I'm going to pay $40 and we're going to sit and watch this movie together. And my daughter, we were both just sobbing. I mean, it's so beautiful. And my son was like, I'm going to go to sleep as soon as we get there. I'm like, that's fine. That's what I did for your dumb movies when you were little. And then we got there, and of course, there's this like caliente sex scene in the first 15 minutes. He's all in, you know. So he watched the whole movie. That was the only intimacy in the movie, but it got him there. And so I am like all for being in these, like, let's put our kids in these spaces that are different. And I was looking at my calendar because I've got this stupid appointment to have part of my like skin cut off or whatever they're going to do. And this is, by the way, what I think I get for being vain about my legs. And I was looking at when it's scheduled, and it's scheduled on a Friday at 2:30. And Saturday, I have to make 3 pot roasts for our homeless ministry. I'm hosting my perimenopausal book club that day, and I'm doing a funeral. And there's a version of me before my parents died that would be like, what can I cancel? Like, this is crazy, you know? And there's a part of me now that just feels so lucky to be here to do this stuff that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to show up. My leg might be a little bloody. Like, I'm somehow going to, you know, put on a tea for a book club. And I'm also going to make pot roast for homeless people. Like, that's where all the magic is. I think that's what we forget over and over again when we like isolate and we have our little screen in front of us and we're not pushing up against each other. We're not having people over. We're not going to things. Is like, that's where all the magic is in like running into each other, you know, and running into like the uncomfortable parts of ourselves. And I just want more of that magic.
I think that's what she's endorsing. RJ, what's your thought before I say a few things?
Sarah's last thing she was saying was just made me think of, you know, we've got a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And sometimes people are like, well, gosh, you were so close to being empty nesters and so close to, and we've had that thought too. And then, but recently our thought was like, what the hell would we be doing if we didn't have like, I don't know what we'd be doing. So, I guess this is just me speaking personally. I feel like my whole life is friction. And not in a bad way, but like I just spend a ton of time with people, with my family, with my staff, with my church on Sundays and Bible studies and hospital visits and everything. So I agree, and it's good, and I like it, and it's also exhausting, and I feel the need more than I used to for like a little bit, like naps, you know, or just I'm going to watch a movie by myself because I love people. And people are exhausting, you know, and I'm exhausting. So I'm here for the friction, but I just can't. I can't imagine a life in which I had any less of it, I guess.
I mean, I'm of two minds about this, frankly, because life is hard, and I don't begrudge people for wanting to take some shortcuts.
Yeah.
You know, to Uber the dinner after if you're both working and like you're trying to get along and the kids are being impossible. I mean, that's who would ever judge someone for that? But I recognize what she's talking about, and like the convenience for the sake of convenience, and you end up editing out the good stuff. You just do, and that's like, what is church if not just endless amounts of friction of doing
100%.
Totally.
doing this sort of difficult. There are many more efficient ways to do the things we do here, but because you want to involve someone else, or you know that it'd be a good thing for you to be with other people. Like you get into these situations, you know. Right now, while as I'm recording this, we're having our monthly seniors luncheon. And it's not an efficiently run event, and that's its beauty. You know, that's like
totally
because, and then you think that makes sense because, not to put too fine a point on it, but Jesus was not efficient. Like,
no.
This is not optimization, and all that stuff doesn't lie at the center of what this whole Christian thing is about. And so I recognize this, and I look for opportunities for more willingness to experience these tiny little inconveniences, which all add up to the good stuff of life. Because the ultimate friction in life is other people. So you can have a frictionless existence. It'll just be a lonely one without any love.
And the ultimate inconvenience is children. You know, they're hugely inconvenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think about how many people on their deathbeds, like what they're expressing is just that they wish they'd had more friction.
Yeah.
they wish they'd spent more time with people. They wish they'd loved their family better. RJ, I think, and I know we have a lot of clergy that listen to this podcast. I think you're not wrong. I do think that is an unusual thing about this vocation is like it's full of friction. If you're
Yes, it
doing it
is.
right,
Yes.
it's full of friction.
Yes.
And I think the struggle for clergy is finding a balance of not giving all your friction away when you're at
Oh my
work, so
gosh,
that you have
yes.
some at home, because that's
Yeah.
real. That's a real
Because you get home and you're
thing.
kind of a shell of a
You're
person.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like,
And-
how do you find that balance? So
The added disadvantage or advantage you have in denominations like ours is that you're often dealing with old buildings that are just nothing but friction,
yeah.
as opposed to, I think sometimes it's easy to look at people in churches that sort of have technology that actually works, and like bathrooms that are, easy to use and made for human beings and things like that. Like you envy that, but that's
Made for
ultimately
human beings.
you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I've used the bathrooms at Christ Church recently. I'm well aware of the situation. Yeah.
But
Which is
that's
why we're
actually a
about to
gift,
build
I
new
guess,
bathrooms.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
some
good.
of that
Yeah.
friction would be nice to eliminate, and I think that this is not an across the board thing.
Yeah.
But
Can I just
anyhow.
say that for our most recent conference there, I was about to speak. First of all, I could not find a
gosh.
bathroom.
Sarah,
And then when I
nothing but
found a
friction.
bathroom, there were like 3 people in line ahead of me. And they all knew how I was. Nobody's going to let me go to the bathroom ahead of them. And then this grandma went in with a little girl, and they were in there for half a century. And I'm just standing there, and but all I can do is stand there and think, like, because that is good friction. Like, it's like, no, this is a like humbling moment. Like, this is okay that this little girl is going to take forever and no one's going to rush because of me. Like, this is actually like the message being the thing.
That's the good kind of friction. The less kind is that then Sarah went to go deal with the technological aspects of her talk.
I didn't like that.
And none of
like
it
that
worked because of various preparation related things, mostly probably related to my failures. But there was.
I'm just gonna say I saw somebody Google PowerPoint and I thought, we're done. What are we doing here? I'm not doing this.
That we could eliminate that friction and all be well okay with it.
That would drive me insane.
Let's move on to this next thing. It's a longer thing, but I thought it was pretty brilliant. This is from Freddie DeBoer, his newsletter on the topic of oversocialization, the shackles of the millennial generation. Now, he is a millennial writing as a millennial, and it's an essay about what he would consider to being a growing social condition that's very curious. Why are so many of the people who should be the most confident in our society among the most insecure instead? These people are cultured, digitally savvy, fluent in the vocabulary of the upwardly striving classes, hip to what's cool in movies and music and clothes, deeply aware of the hierarchy of social status, and in general would appear to be better equipped than most to navigate 21st century life. But many, many people who fit all those criteria are among the most neurotic people I know, the most insecure, the least able to enjoy anything because of their relentless overthinking. One plausible answer is that the very skills that allow people to climb these ladders also habituate them to doubting themselves constantly. Success in elite milieus increasingly depends on an almost obsessive attunement to other people's judgments, shifting norms, and invisible rules. So the habit of self-surveillance never switches off. The result is a life lived under continuous internal audit, where competence would require ignoring exactly the social signals they spent years learning to decode. He says that he sees the phenomenon known as oversocialization, which is the internalization of social norms to a pathological degree. Bear with me here. The oversocialized person does not merely follow rules, they experience rules as moral absolutes and violations of those rules as deep personal failure. They feel guilt, shame, and anxiety not only when they hurt others, but when they imagine that they might have violated some constantly shifting social code. He says millennials are, by and large, profoundly oversocialized. The result is a generation riddled with social anxiety, chronic insecurity, and the persistent gnawing suspicion that someone somewhere is mad at us. We're a generation of people who apologize when someone else bumps into us. A generation that compulsively rereads sent emails for unintended tone crimes. Educated, creative class millennials do not experience social life as a series of shared rituals and negotiated expectations, we experience it as a minefield. Millennials are in the unenviable position of being over socialized in a world with remarkably few shared expectations about how to live. Stable careers, the clear class roles, the religious institutions, the family structures, mom and apple pie, all have to some degree or another eroded or vanished. Whether those structures were just or humane is another question, obviously, but they did provide scripts for how to feel like a successful human being. They told people what adulthood looked like, what success meant, what failure entailed. You could reject those scripts, but you couldn't pretend that they didn't exist. We, by contrast, are told that everything is open ended and self authored. Be anything, says the motivational Instagram account. Define success for yourself, says the best selling self help book. Chart your own path, says your mother in a text message. That all might sound liberating, but it's actually exhausting. When nothing is prescribed, everything is a choice, and every choice is a referendum on your worth. At the same time, while these big questions of life are radically underspecified, the small questions of behavior are overregulated. So we live in a strange inversion. Maximal freedom where guidance would help, and maximal constraint where looseness would be humane. None of this is an argument for cruelty, callousness, or return to the brutal social hierarchies of the past. It is an argument for recognizing that a generation can be both norm starved and rule saturated at the same time, and that this combination produces endless anxiety, not virtue, certainly not compassion. Over socialization does not make people kinder or wiser. It makes them scared, and fear is a terrible foundation on which to build an emotional life. If millennials are to escape this trap, it won't be by discovering the perfect set of rules or the correct posture toward every conceivable social interaction. You can't overthink your way out of the pain of overthinking. If we escape, it will be by relearning the ability to tolerate disapproval, ambiguity, and the ordinary friction of human life. Not everyone is mad at you. Most people are thinking about themselves, and the social world, despite everything the internet tells you, is messier, looser, and far more forgiving than your anxiety allows you to believe. A lot of words, but it's a good question, and I think it's an interesting one where people are very, very cognizant of that there's a right thing to say and a wrong thing to say, a right way to say it, a wrong way to say it. These micro interactions feel very freighted, but there's no sort of overarching larger framework in which to frame them, and that produces anxiety. So maybe you see this, maybe you don't. Where does your mind go?
I think it's just that millennials right now are like kind of 40s ish, like 35 to
Mhm.
45. Because I know I'm on the
Mhm.
upper limit. I'm like an exennial. I think it's just a function of the age. What the age they are. I just think that your 30s and, late 20s to mid 40s, whatever, is a deeply anxious, unsettled time. You're getting married, you're having a family, you're building a career, you're trying to figure it out. And I remember at one point thinking that there were sort of established rules to the way that the world worked, and then realizing that no, that wasn't true. But I feel like, or learning that also not to take things personally. That not everyone's emotion is about you. It's not all a commentary on you. People are going through their own stuff and they manifest it in their own way. And I love movies, and I just think about, like, I don't know, The Breakfast Club or The Graduate, or these movies in the '60s and '80s, that bear witness to all these same sorts of questions about people trying to find their way in the world and being very worried about screwing it up. So I feel like it's just a symptom of a person's age and stage of life. And that, and these studies have shown also that it peaks in sort of your late 40s, early 50s. And then apparently people start to chill out a little bit more because they get more comfortable with themselves. They start to see how the world works. They stop caring so much. They're not striving so much. That's my 2 cents. I don't think it's a this time in the world type thing. I think it's just a nature of, it's part of growing up.
I totally get what you're saying. I do wonder about kind of the curated life of a millennial online, which I think is probably a little bit more prominent for women than men in our age group. And like, I remember having a real sense of things had to look a certain way and feel a certain way, and I had to be a certain person. And maybe it's age, maybe it's trauma, I don't know, but that's kind of not there anymore. But like, yeah, that you feel like you could always do something wrong. I mean, it's funny. Gosh, please just email Dave because I don't want to hear it. But when we were in Oxford, before, I guess we were headed to RJ. I don't even know the names of these games. We'd won the Sugar Bowl and we were headed to the
I don't
next
know.
one.
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway.
It's all a mess
So-
now, but yes.
Yeah. So I was at this store on the square and they had this gorgeous sweatshirt, bright red, and it had rebels across the front. And it was like in this like pretty applique. It had polka dots. And I called my brother, who does not listen to this podcast. Really, I called my sister-in-law, and because she's a lot younger, and so she has this freedom. And I called her and I was like, I know the history of this. Obviously, I major in Southern Studies. I never use this phrase, but this sweatshirt is so cute. And I had heard the Today Show that morning, and they had said the Rebels, and I was like, okay, well, they're saying it on the Today Show. Like, maybe it's okay. And, I called my brother, who's more of a millennial than I am. And he's like, are you kidding me? You are an Episcopal priest. You can't just trot this shirt out, And then my sister-in-law, who's younger than him, is the background, like, buy it. And I bought it and I really love it. But I will be honest with you, there was something for me that was like, felt like, what if I get caught wearing? I mean, and I don't know how much of that is my age or me being a millennial or like political correctness or, I mean, any of all of the above.
There is some ideological, soft points that people are trying to negotiate around, but
but haven't they always been?
But I think it's deeper than that, and it could be just a generational thing. But I remember reading an advice column with a bunch that was really geared at Gen Z and millennials, and woman writing, and I put this in the big relief where she's saying, my default emotion is guilt. I don't know what I feel guilty about. I just know that I do. And that is over-socialization, or that's what he's talking about. Like,
right.
Because guilt always implies some sort of shared moral framework. And none of these people are expressing that. They just know that they've done something wrong, or they know that someone's mad at them.
That's also just true. We're all doing wrong things all the time. Of course we feel guilty because the law is written on the heart, like, because we're not sociopaths.
I know, but I think
those are the only people who don't feel guilty all the time are sociopaths.
I think I feel a good kind of guilt when I honked at the old people in Oxford who weren't moving fast enough across the street and the light had changed.
You honked at them?
I did.
The old people?
I just got in the town. I was tired. And I was like, this is a safety issue. And I fully honked
Southerners
at
are polite. You're
not this one. And I was, but like I had I was like, I felt really guilty and I should have felt really guilty. Like that was a sinful thing to do. Right. Mm-hmm. But if I'm wearing this shirt and I'm worried about the judgment of others, that's not
guilt. No.
That's not guilt. That's an anxiety.
No. Yes,
that's that's me being like, I just like polka dots, guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I can't, it's not the same thing. And so,
he sort of says that it's a strange phenomenon where all these micro rules have rushed in to fill the place where the macro ones used to be, and the scripts that have vanished. And he says that the rules that we would follow are usually there to help us get along with each other. And unfortunately, what happens in this sort of over-socialized world is that the paranoia about not being haunted by them means that you end up never actually serving other people because you're just completely focused on your own state. And you cannot solve the problem of overthinking by overthinking. It's 100%. Just the answer lies, and I think, in this next piece. But RJ, you got one thing to say before you, Mr. Sociopath?
Oh, no, I'm just not really buying it that this is a new phenomenon. I was just going to say Sarah's Rebel story reminded me, I think like last year we went to the fair, the South Florida Fair, which is amazing. And my older sons have all these football jerseys that they got when they were like 9, 10 years old. And Marshall went upstairs and dragged one out. It was a Niners jersey. Like, oh, that looks so cool. He'd never worn it before. And then he turned around on the back. It said Kaepernick. And I was like, we're going to wear it. But I did wonder, like, is anyone going to say anything to me at the fair about my son wearing a Kaepernick jersey? But of course we bought that. It's just because like Kaepernick had just led the Niners to the Super Bowl. No big deal. Yeah. I didn't know he was going to become a cultural, touchstone or something. Yeah.
But RJ, I don't want to push back against you, but I'm going to. Maybe I do. I just feel like
push
when
back.
I was growing up, like when I was coming of age in my 20s, when I was coming of age, that was the first moment that you could put something stupid on social media, get on an airplane, cross the Atlantic Ocean, get off the airplane, and your whole life was over.
Yeah. Because
And
there's
that
a
we
group
never,
of people that
yeah.
love
Okay.
feeling better about themselves
That
by
was
pointing
like,
other people's stories.
what?
Yeah.
I mean, that was, and to have a childhood where like the internet didn't exist, and suddenly here's this thing that we're all now attached to, that like what you can do one
I
thing
might be
wrong.
too old to feel that. Honestly,
Yeah.
so maybe you're right. Maybe I'm turning 50 this year. I'm taking naps. It's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the answer is in these next two pieces,
it.
I hope, somewhere along the lines. This is from the New York Times. I love this. Whatever ails you, the answer is dance, by Boris Fishman. He writes, I was born in the Soviet Union where no respectable restaurant dared go without a dance platform. Even my family dinners weren't immune from sentimental swaying to the sounds of a combed-over crooner after tea. People dance in the United States, of course, but they dance mostly in places sanctioned for dancing, like weddings, concert venues, and clubs. In the Soviet Union, we were too unfree not to exploit every opportunity to let loose. Says, my daughter Agnes will never know what it was like to grow up where I did. But then he recounts a story of being at a vacation in Turkey and the restaurant becoming everyone's starting to dance in this restaurant where they were eating. As she moved with melodramatically solemn concentration on that patio, I watched a girl transported by spontaneous, unscheduled movement. And not only her own, she was seeing her parents, not only as harried people bowed by work and chores, we were dancers. Since then, every family trip has involved a detour for dance. The painfully plain lesson of these experiences has been that, no matter what ails you, a body does better after a bout of dancing. Dance is a trespass of boundaries, an immigration into spaces and forms that previously held only air or a partner. It is a courtship of athleticism and physicality from which one emerges. He concludes by saying, we have a salve to the impossibilities of the world. We put on the music. We extend our hands. We put our bodies in motion. It's not an easy time for dancing, but for us, it is time to unclench and let ourselves go. There's something about grace and dancing here that I see, and that is very interesting, that when we're scared, we stiffen. And when we're happy, we're loose and fluid. And dancing, by the way, is kind of the opposite of overthinking. Like, I mean, you can feel self-conscious about dancing and dancing in the right way and with the right people. But for the most part, what people like about dancing is the present tense, transcendent joy of it and instinctual aspect of it, right?
Met my wife dancing. Yeah.
Oh,
I love dancing.
30
bring back
years
the
ago.
Episco Disco.
Sarah, what do
Yeah.
you think about this? This kind of made me think of you.
Well, it makes me think of when my brother and sister-in-law got married. They got married 2 days to the 1-year anniversary of my parents dying. And I really, really, really struggled with that and had some big feelings towards them. And I kept my mouth shut by the grace of God. By the grace of God, I kept my mouth shut. And because I knew that my grief was too confused for me to know what I was really angry about. Do you know what I mean? Like I was probably just angry my parents weren't there, and I needed something to be mad about. So I kind of somehow kept my mouth shut. And their reception was just one of the most powerful dance floors I've ever been on, because all of us, I was like, my whole family was like up there out on the dance floor, like losing our minds. And we have these cousins that are like coolness is a really high value for them, which I think is a burden. And so the only thing they would dance to was the Rolling Stones. And I remember looking over at one of my boy cousins, and Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You was on, and he was like mouthing to it, and I was like, get out here. It was just like the best. And my sister-in-law, gosh, I remember she had this teacher who danced with the kids. It was like my sister-in-law's gifted teacher from high school. She danced with all the kids. And I found out later that her son, the teacher's son, had shot himself 2 weeks before. Oh. And I thought, how beautiful that we're all on this floor dancing to Mariah Carey together. holding this much grief. Like, how utterly and totally appropriate. So recently, my sister-in-law and I talk a lot. And recently, I kind of gestured towards how hard that was for me that they got married then. And she goes, "Oh my God, Sarah." And I'm sure she told me this 100%, but people were telling me a lot of information then. She's like, "We picked that date because your mom loved it. And we picked that venue because we looked at it with your parents." And I was like, thank God that I just danced.
It didn't say anything.
Thank God that I didn't say anything. And I just went in wholehearted. And I was like, I'm going to just love this. Thank God that I just danced, you know? So
that's such a great story.
Yeah.
You've never mentioned that. I've never heard that. You say that. That's so cool.
Gosh, that was Dave. I was thinking, this is like, now I'm rambling. I was thinking, yesterday I was at work and somebody said something about like white wine and fried chicken. And I was thinking about how you came to my parents' funeral and then you came to our house afterwards and somebody had picked up fried chicken and white wine. And we just like, you just sat with me and how tender that was and how grateful I am for your friendship. Like, talk about like a place of friction to walk into. And,
oh, thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, we all need each other, man. We need the weirdness. We need the Mariah Carey. We need the dance. We need each other.
People can dance on their own, and they often do. I think it's a lot of fun, but it's not the same as the joy, the kind of collective effervescence that happens on a dance floor, and again, the self-consciousness that melts away, and the different type of kind of relating, bonding, and all that. When you hear "I Want You Back" by the Jackson 5, and you just can't stop moving. RJ,
I have nothing as profound as what Sarah said. I was just thinking about Disney World. My middle son was sort of filming on his phone, and then he made a series of vlogs for our various days, which you can find on YouTube. MSJ Bros. MSJ. If you want to, they've got 22 subscribers, but they're hoping for 23.
A lot of impromptu dance parties at Disney World, as I recall.
Well, there was a moment, my 9-year-old, who's starting to get that point where he's more self-conscious, and also there was just a moment where we're walking along, I think in Epcot, and he's like a little bit ahead of us. And he just starts dancing. He just starts dancing by himself as he's walking along, just not even really thinking. And then he looks back and sees us and stops doing it immediately. We're like, oh, you're just happy and free, and spontaneous dancing is a really beautiful thing. So,
well, I want to close with a little, not a portion of a piece that I wrote for Christianity Today called "Blessed Are the Pickleball Players," which is I've like to think is hand in glove.
Dave,
yeah.
I saw this and I was like, somebody stole an idea from us.
It's me, Sarah.
It's you.
Me.
Okay, good.
Well, someone was asked me to write it. Ashley Hales asked me to write it, and it was a delight. It was really proud piece, to be honest with you, because it collects a lot of the things we've been talking about. And this dance piece just made me think of it. So I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then we can sign off. But this is "Blessed Are the Pickleball Players." I write that kids play less than they once did. They certainly play less freely. The decline applies to adults as well. What were once hobbies are now for many of us side hustles. A weekend scrapbooking project morphs into an Etsy shop. A brisk jog in the woods is now a training session for the next trail running 5K. Add smartphones to the mix, and play doesn't stand a chance. The decline of play is lamentable, and not just for its social consequences, but for what it signals about contemporary spiritual conditions. A life in which play is sparse is one in which joy is sparse. This alone ought to grieve believers who consider joy a fruit of the Spirit and a core aspect of the Christian life and God's character. Play describes a way of being in the world that divine grace makes possible. A way that is dynamic and delight-filled, outward-oriented, yet faithful. As such, it represents an urgent, if tragically undertapped, opportunity for Christian witness to a world drowning in dreariness. Those who champion grace might do well to champion play as a response to it. I talk about pickleball, by the way, at length, and I go into the sort of various definitions of play, but I don't want to go down those here. I want to spell out the ending where I talk about a few implications of a theology of play. First, Understanding play as an essential part of the Christian life does not mean Christians are exempt from suffering. However, of course not if you read Paul's letters, it does mean that there may be something inescapably fun about being a Christian. Laughter and joy are not incidental. Perhaps this hints at what Augustine meant when he articulated a vision of Christian life as focused on delight rather than obligation. Delight in creation, delight in others, delight in God. In other words, church may be a great place to cry, but if it doesn't inspire a smile now and then, something may have gone awry. If play is truly an essential dimension of a spirit-driven Christian life, a sense of humor is not spiritually negligible. Silliness and self-deprecation become not just virtues, but acts of resistance in a world and a church that enshrines productivity more with each passing day. But does play matter now? It feels as if the world is on fire, collapsing as we speak under waves of acrimony, fear, and exploitation. Am I really saying the Christian response to the state of the world is to play? To be like a modern-day Nero, callously batting around a pickleball as Rome burns? Isn't the proper Christian response to suffering one of service and sacrifice and reconciliation? Absolutely, it is. Yet work and play are not mutually exclusive categories. Adopting a playful attitude toward your work on behalf of others doesn't make that work any less urgent. It merely ensures you won't burn out as quickly. To serve others in a way that makes you smile, that even brings delight, means you will serve your neighbor better. Like a child in a sandbox, you will take bigger risks if you believe eternity isn't at stake. Besides, I doubt anyone believes the solution to present distress will come from amplifying the gravity of our predicament even more. In fact, I often wonder if our culture's current heaviness invites Christians to turn up the volume on their witness to a lighter way of being.
Yes.
As the world grows steadily more grave, our playfulness points that much more clearly to a different world, a kingdom full of forgiven sinners, where children laugh and angels, play.
So good, Dave.
I'm happy with it. But the dancing is a form of play. These are all present tense things. Play usually involves other people.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that play is sort of the inverse of the over-socialized, overthinking, constant fear of transgression. Certainly a Christian understanding of play is based in the assurance that God's got you. God loves you no matter what. Like that's not up for grabs. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about this before we sign off?
So I was the college minister at Rice for 4 years, and no one would ever accuse me of like doing a ton of service work. And there was a lot of, my mentor in that job had said, what was it? Preach the gospel, give gifts, third parties, tell stories. And that's what I did. I did a lot of that. And I had a student reach out to me like 6 weeks ago, and she's like, students are so, and you guys have this experience from Focus, they're so precious because, they're always like, you may not remember me. And it's like, no, babe, I remember.
Of course I do. Yes.
Of course I remember you. And she's like, you may not remember me.
We prayed for you.
Like, she's incredible and is like, had some health issues with her lungs. One of them collapsed when she was in undergrad, and she wasn't around for the ministry a lot. Then she came back, and now she's like, I think she said she had a lung transplant. She's going to medical school, just an incredible human being. And she was talking about like how much she loved, how much I talked about service and caring for other people. And I was like, what?
I didn't.
Maybe I don't remember you.
I don't. Yeah. I was just like, I feel so assured. I felt so assured in that moment that like, even when a lot of voices in the church say, you're not telling them what to do. Right. So they're not going to be Christian. They're not going to be good Christians. There are things they're supposed to do that somehow, if you just preach grace, they know like the service thing is just a part of it. I don't know. I mean, it felt like
fruit of the gospel.
Such a Holy Spirit. Like I was like, she could have said anything. You were funny. You spent a lot of money on a beach house in Galveston. I loved all the tacos. And she said, I just loved how much you encourage service. What?
Yeah.
So I think we did so much play in that job. And I think the fruits of that, the beautiful, the brilliant and beautiful thing. Okay, you can do the whole like you've got to serve and you've got to, and you know what? You're going to guilt some people into it. So great. Awesome. And you're going to control that situation. You know what they're going to do? They're going to show up and they're going to do the right thing and they're going to serve and they're either going to feel really good about themselves or they're going to resent you. That's what happens. I know this is black and white. I know there's gray, but that's usually what happens. Or you can show up and do ministry and play, and you can say, I have no control over what these people are going to do with this when they leave here. And that's where the miracle is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play is an expression of grace in that respect. It doesn't have this end, this
100%.
Product in mind. It doesn't.
No.
You're not doing it it's because you actually enjoy it. It's freedom. We're really talking about freedom here.
Yeah.
RJ, what do you think? Why don't you bring us home?
I like that last thing. I was teaching at our Wednesday night thing last night, and I was talking about sort of what the gospel is, and I said, guys, I'm not a life coach, I'm not a drill sergeant, I'm a delivery boy. But maybe I'm also a cruise director. I'm thinking now, Sarah, after you said that I'm the delivery boy and the cruise director.
Yeah.
And it does, I think I've said this before. And I don't know, I stole this from like Aaron Zimmerman or Stu Shelby or somebody. I'm trying to figure out who said this, but one thing we like to say in our church a lot is we take Jesus seriously, but not ourselves. And when you take Jesus' love, his grace, his presence, his promises seriously, you could just hold everything else with like a little bit of a loose hand and just kind of enjoy your life, take a few risks, see what works, not fear failure, like see what the Holy Spirit might actually do. And it is it's a much more fun way to live than just everything being so serious all the time. And miracles happen, God shows up and does crazy stuff.
Well, let's pray that happens more in 2026, along with all the other stuff we've talked about. But let's more miracles, more naps, more miracles, a little more friction.
Yep.
In every sense. So,
Hotty toddy.
Let's end there. Thank you guys for being back. We'll be back in a couple weeks. And again, Happy New Year, 3 weeks late. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember, you can find us on the web at www.mbird.com. And we'd always love to hear from you at info@mbird.com. Audio production for the Mockingcast is provided by TJ Hester. And if you like what you've heard, please drop over to iTunes and leave us a rating or review. Until next time.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.